Why not? Why not?
Why not, right? We are going to jump straight in. Welcome to our coaching call week 5. I am so delighted to introduce you, or Kristen, you might already know, the beautiful Jasmine Meek from the Bayside Doula. Jasmine is going to be helping us understand and learn about and set healthy boundaries, which I know can be really tricky to do. And so I'm just so glad you're here tonight, Jazz, to help us all out with this really finicky yet important part of our lives. Jasmine, take it away.
Thanks, Sally. It's awesome to be able to do this. I am by no means an boundaries, but I am passionate about them and I talk about them a lot in my work. So I work with mothers, especially new mums or mums expecting a baby. And boundaries is just this huge part of it. And I love to, as Sally said, it's not as simple as a lot of us think, right? It's boundaries aren't just kind of like, you can't do that. It's there's more to it. And so I like to get into the nitty-gritty with my clients. And so as soon as everybody arrives, hello, I am very keen for tonight to be more of a conversation than me just sharing a buttload of info. So please don't be afraid to have your mics off at all. Like if there's too much noise, that's fine. But if you on. If you turn your mic on to like take part and then it stays on, yeah, don't be scared of that. Don't be shy, because I want to be able to freely converse. Cool. We got more and more people coming in. Hello. So, yes, I am the Bayside Doula. That is my business name, and I work with mothers as both a postpartum doula and a mother's helper. So my job is to really just help mums in their homes, but a huge part of that is the emotional support and the education stuff. Boundaries is a huge part, so that is why I'm here tonight. So I thought we would start with very quickly just the what boundaries actually are. A lot of people have the misconception that boundaries are like a wall to keep people out, telling somebody how they can and cannot behave. And in reality, I found the perfect definition actually on Reddit. So of all the things I've read, just a Reddit post was the best one. But a boundary is a rule that you create to help regulate your own behavior. And I was like, oh, that is fantastic, because a boundary does not tell somebody else how to behave. It tells the people that you love, the people in your life, what you are willing to have in your life, what you are willing to live with, certainly how you would like to be treated, but the boundary relies on your own behavior changing. So they tell people how to be in your life, not out of it, but without draining you. So without kind of, that whole crossing the line. It's actually about fostering a relationship, right? To say, this is what makes me happy. This is what makes me feel safe. This is what protects my capacity. And then in an ideal world, hopefully, with good communication, the people respect that boundary, you hold that boundary strong, and they get to stay in your life rather than conflict happening, rather than resentment and anger. So if somebody communicates their boundaries to you, that is them trying to keep you in their life, not push you away. So I think that's a really good distinction to make, because a lot of people, I think when the whole discussion about boundaries came into the world, however many, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and it was very much viewed as this kind of like, you will not talk to me like that kind of boundary. When a boundary is actually when somebody speaks to me in XYZ way, I will, and then insert behavior. When you visualize a boundary, actually, I would love people to come off mute and tell me how they think of boundaries, because it is a bit of a vague concept. Does anyone have a visual, an analogy that that works for them, that they've heard, read, thought of, or a visualization? Anyone? Pop it in the chat.
I do, Jazz.
Excellent.
Can you hear me? All good?
Oh, yes.
I was just looking through my notebook then, actually, because that's where I write down all my stuff about all my growth stuff. And I really didn't understand boundaries about a year ago. Like, the concept to me, or understanding what was a boundary or what was healthy, was like really, I guess, confusing to me. And I always thought that boundaries equaled problems. So I did a lot of work on that with my therapist, which that's who I absolutely love. And we kind of went through like the background to that. And because in most of my instances, whenever I put a boundary in place, it created a problem for others. And then I used to think that that meant it wasn't okay. But now I see boundaries as alignment. And so for me, that's about me going, this is something that I'm setting because it is aligned with me. And that's a huge shift. And then I realized that now in that 12 months, I guess, from really understanding that and growing, the more and more boundaries that I set, the more and more I'm feeling like I live in alignment. So it's like a big transformation when you really understand, I guess, how wonderful it is to actually set down and healthy ones that align with who you want to be and where you're heading and the direction that you're going. And the other thing they said is typically the only people that get upset are the ones who aren't to benefit from the boundary that you set. So if it's like, sorry, I can't give you money, or I can't give you money, but I'm here if you need a chat, they might get upset, but they'll accept it. So it's been huge for me. And so I love this topic because I'm still learning, obviously, and I feel like I've got a long way to go. And I think it's something you never stop learning about. But yeah, I'm really keen to hear what other people have done in this space as well.
I love that, Stacey. The alignment thing is absolutely perfect, because a big part of boundary setting is setting boundaries in alignment with your values. So actually, when I talk to mums, women, anyone about setting boundaries, I say, step one, know your values. So if you know your values, personal values, family values, and like you said, Stacey, where you want to go, who you want to be, what's important to you, then that makes setting boundaries and holding them so much easier. It allows you to be confident because you, like you said, when you finally go, who do I want to be? What do I want in my life? Then it becomes more of a no-brainer. Less of that sticky kind of like, oh, I'm just letting someone down, and more of the what do I want and what are my values and what keeps me and my family safe. Yeah.
Yeah, and just adding on to that, Jazz, before you go on, I think the other thing that really helped sink in for me, and I guess I was dealing with a lot of like family pressure. I've always been like the family in my life. And one of the other, I guess it was really interesting to hear from my therapist's perspective where she said, what is the cost of not enforcing the boundary? And the cost was always me. It was me or my family, or something. I would be exhausted. I'd be run down. I would have no money. I would be stressed. So it actually started to help be easier for me. And I've never been able to do it. I've always been like yes, I'll help. Yes, I'll help. But now I'm like, actually, I can't help you right now, but I can help in other ways.
Yeah. Yeah. What is the cost? And that's a great one, because often as women, we are more likely to be people pleasers. We've also been socialized to be the nurturers, and our instinct is often to say yes. We want to help, and then every now and then, if you're kind of in tune to it, right, you get that moment of like, oh my God, why am I saying yes to this? Sometimes it's obvious enough to go, oh, what am I doing? Why am I bending over backwards for this person? And so then to actually be able to differentiate between, because sometimes we really need to go, okay, do I need to be generous here? Or do I need to set this boundary? And helping you get to that answer, one of the questions can be, well, what is the cost to me? So is this actually a rare moment for a woman where I'm actually just going, oh, I don't want to, you'll find that out really quickly. Okay, is it in alignment with my values? What is the cost to me? And then if it's like no, and a huge amount of cost to my energy and family, well, no, you're not just being selfish or lazy or whatever. If you're like, well, it is aligned with my values to help my community, and somebody asked me to volunteer or something, and I do have a free day, okay, well, maybe this is the time to say yes. And and I only say that because as women, we have to come up with these, like, we have to have tools to help us identify when we're saying yes and when we're saying no, because otherwise it can get too much like set boundaries and say no all the time, or so that's very awesome to share that. Thank you. And I think that's a very cool addition. And then the other thing that you said about the people who don't like your boundary are the ones who won't benefit, and they'll have their big feelings about it. And I was thinking, because earlier I was actually coming up with some comparisons with boundary setting and how it actually is a benefit to relationships with parenting. And so the example that I found was just really simple. And it just reminds us that, like, in parenting, we are constantly doing these kind of like these real, like, relationship dynamic dances. And when it's our children, we can sometimes just do it intuitively and you don't question it. But then when it comes to adult relationships, it gets so much stickier, and we're like, oh no, do I set a boundary or not? And the example of like how a boundary is set was you're driving your child home from school, any age, but let's say that you absolutely know they hate talking in the car. They don't want to talk about their day. Either they're a primary schooler and they're just wiped, or they're a teenager who's actually explicitly said to you, like, I don't want to talk about my day when I get in the car. Well, you're going to listen to that, right? You're going to go, okay, that's what my child wants. And so in the car, we drive with music or silence, and then I get to chat to my child later, and that's great. So that is a successful boundary set by your child, and then you have modeled respecting that boundary, and that will actually that's a healthy relationship dynamic. In adulthood, we struggle with adult relationships where someone sets a boundary and another person crosses it, and there's unhealthy dynamics. But if we just kind of relate it back to our parenting and how simple that is. And your example, Stacey, I just thought people will have big feelings about your boundary, and that's okay. We're not here to control their big feelings, just like in parenting. You say no, kids will cry, and that's okay. You set your boundary, someone has an issue with it, that's okay. We weren't trying to say, be happy with it. We were just saying, this is what I'm willing for. Sally, you have your hand up.
I do, like a good little student. I have a question. Why is it, I find it pretty easy to set boundaries with people who are a bit more distant to me, but with close family members, much harder. Why do we find it so hard to set those boundaries with those who are close to us?
Okay. Well, first off, I learnt most of what I know about boundaries through a psychologist and author named Harriet Lerner, who I'll link in the chat. And she has a bunch of books, but my favorite one is actually just called Women and the Dance of Anger. I feel like it's titled all wrong because I guess it's about, and it was probably written at a time where, like, feminism women were feeling rather angry, and it talks about all these different relationship dynamics. And so boundaries comes into this because anger is one of the results when our boundaries are crossed. So so what happens when boundaries are crossed? So anger is a signal that our rights are being violated, or that our boundaries are being intruded upon or ignored or disrespected. Resentment's a signal that our needs are not being met. So little bit similar. And Harriet Lerner goes really in depth about these relationship dynamics and how, with the people we're closest to, the relationship dynamics that have formed over time, the patterns, they're more and more ingrained. So they are trickier. So setting a boundary and making a sudden change is harder, right? I definitely recommend looking into her books. She writes about when you do start setting boundaries and deciding what you are and are not willing to live with, and then communicating that to your closest, to your loved ones. She said you will often get change back. I'm pretty sure that's what she called it, change back behavior. And that's it's almost like a defense mechanism. They're not doing it consciously. They will push harder.
Yes.
To get you to change back to what they are used to.
Right, yeah.
And she gives some really good advice on how to manage that change back behavior. So I really loved that. But I think the other things about close relationships and why that's trickier is something else I wrote down, which is what happens after you set a boundary. So the positive side effect, as I mentioned earlier, we don't set boundaries to change someone else, but a positive side effect of setting a strong, confident boundary is that someone may be influenced to change. So obviously, we don't set the boundary to purposefully change someone's behavior. We set a boundary on what we're willing to live with. If that person changes as a result, great, positive side effect. However, when it comes to these close relationships especially, I think there is always a risk. So there's the risk of the change back behaviors. So they're going to go harder, push harder, don't change. I'm very used to you the way you are. And what else was I writing? Yeah, it's the risk of backfire. Then the stories we tell ourselves, the assumptions we make about how they might feel, how they are feeling, what they're thinking, and fear. It could. So I kind of said like, there's real risks. There's the stories we're telling ourselves, and there's the fear. So those are the consequences, and I guess they're bigger with people that we love more. So if you had a new friend and then that new friend, I think of weird examples that really don't relate to my life. They're almost the opposite. So my first thought was like, that friend swears all the time and you don't like it. It's not a representation of who I am. I like to swear. Let's say you have a new friend. You swear all the time and you don't like it. And you say, hey, we're not a swearing household. So, if you continue to swear, like, we'll have to only have our catch-ups at the park. I don't know. So that you've set a boundary. You've said, like, my behavior is going to change. We'll only go to the park. If that friend is like, oh, my God, eye roll, you're stuffy as, and you lose them, that's a new friend. It may not be a big risk. You may be willing to lose that friend, so you're willing to set the boundary because the risk feels less. You're telling your sister that, you're no longer willing to put up with XYZ. If there's a genuine risk, you could lose them, even for a short period of time. If it's a story you're telling yourself about losing them, or a fear that's rather irrational, but, again, they're going to hate me. The whole family's going to hate me. I'm going to be isolated forever. Catastrophizing.
Yeah.
Makes it so much harder.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Stacey has her hand up, but I'm wondering, after Stacey goes, if anyone would feel comfortable sharing a boundary that maybe...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, please.
I was just going to share one while you were going on it anyway. So good segue, Sally. One of my very first boundaries and my most memorable boundaries was when I was pregnant with Wesley. And I was just about to give birth and my nephew had decided to move over to Australia. And he had no money and nowhere to stay. And he turned up to my house and he was like, can I stay here? And I was like, the old Stacey before kids, always welcoming everybody into my life. It wouldn't have been ideal. You know, he was over here. He spent all his money. He had no plan. He had no desire to work. He was just going to come and really throw my life into sorts. So I spoke to my husband. We booked him a plane home and we paid for it. And we said, look, I'm really sorry, but we're about to have our second child. We don't have space for you to stay here, but I'm happy to pay for your flight home and you can pay us back when you have some money. And, everything will be okay. And I didn't apologize, even though I burst into tears when he walked away to go and get in the car to go to the airport. But I actually think that taught him a lesson, because he's been much more respectful to me ever since then, in the sense that I didn't just say, yes, sure, stay here. I actually did something, and that was so hard for me, and I was so hormonal. Like, obviously, I just wanted to keep him safe and have him here and know that he'd be looked after and fed. But at the same time, he is an adult now, and I am not responsible for the choices that he makes. So that was my very first big moment in boundary setting. So that's a little real life example that I think, is an example of where they can be really healthy, even though they're really hard with close family.
I love it. Thank you for sharing. So what stories were running through your head when you were like, I'm going to have to tell him no? What did you think was going to happen?
The anxiety going through my brain and my body and my pregnant body, and I was like in tears, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I don't want to send him home. I have a spare room. He can be here. I've got space. Like, it was just, this is a consistent boundary that I have with my family now. They're always wanting to come to Stacey's house as a place of refuge. And now I'm consistent where I'm like, if it doesn't align with where I'm at and what I've got going on, I say no. Even though they can't understand it, maybe I understand why I'm saying it. It's to protect my children. I'm a mum now, and I think for women it changes. Your boundaries change a lot once you become a mother and you have children and your own family. And at least that's what I've found. I found that I used to be such a people pleaser, and then I realized I couldn't do raising a family, working, and then supporting everybody else. So that's when I started getting a little bit more hectic. But yeah, I told myself a lot of stories, and I tell you what, hindsight's a wonderful thing, because I regretted that and felt guilty for a long time. Wow. And then now I look back though, and I'm just like, even my other nieces were like, we're really glad you sent him back. Like, we think that's a great, that's a good move to do. He should have had better plans, So anyway, we're really close. We still talk every day. Love him to pieces. He still does the same thing, and he was here for a month in December, but different situation, guys. Different situation. I wasn't pregnant. I had
you had capacity. That's the difference, right? Because a boundary isn't set for life. And that's why people kind of say like boundaries are people talk about it in terms of like they're movable and they're changeable, and a boundary needs to be strong for you in the moment. It needs to not change in the moment if you've made it in alignment with your values, but your needs change over time. So therefore, then you can pick up the boundary and go, yeah, well, I don't actually mind people lumping in on my house now because I have capacity. But at every given time, it's like, what feels right for me? What am I willing to live with? Very cool. Yeah, that is very cool, Stacey. Well done. And yes, the stories we tell ourselves in our heads of how it's going to go. And I wrote this down that, like, when you're having that anxiety leading up to a boundary you need to set, even if that boundary is like, the boundary might be, I don't accept a coffee that's made incorrectly. I send it back to the waiter. It could, it could be if my meal comes out with the wrong sauce, I'm going to only accept the food that I paid for. So, and even that can be hard. But so when you think about like, all right, the stories that are running in our head, is it a real risk? So I don't know, what's a real risk of sending your coffee back? Is it a real risk they might spit in your coffee or something? Maybe, I don't know. Depends what kind of cafe it goes to. Or is it a story? So like a story you're telling yourself about yourself, like, only uppity people send their coffees back. Only difficult people, like or the story about I'm easygoing, so I don't do this, I'm different to other people, like I'm chill. Or is it a fear? So the baristas will dislike me. And then the next time I come in, they'll remember me and go, there's that chick who sent that coffee back that one time and she's a bitch and we hate her. You know, it's the kind of thing that would run through my head.
I want to jump in here. I would like to know, put up your hand, who would send a wrong coffee back?
Wrong or made badly? Ooh. Go with made badly.
Is there a difference? Okay. Who would send a coffee back if it was made poorly? Put your hand up. No one! Oh, fuck, Jasmine, I'm so glad you're here. I would send that shit back so quickly, but I'd do it politely. Okay, I'm going to shut up. Jasmine, go. Fix them. Help them.
I got to fix me too. I didn't even put my hand up.
Yeah.
I think about it. I go, do it, Jazz. Do it. It's the boundary. Yeah. Okay. So how do we get better at that is with practice. So practice with the low stakes stuff, because then when your nephew does rock up at your door, it's pretty bloody hard to say no when someone's physically standing there. So we practice with the small stuff as much as you can. Practice with friends who you know will respect your boundary, because even then it's like confirming for you each time that it is possible to have a good result, and it builds that muscle. So like I am not coming today because I am under the weather instead, or, you know, I'm just really tired. That is a boundary, because you're saying I'm choosing to stay home because I'm tired. You're not telling somebody else like, hey, don't have a gathering when I'm sick. You know, like that's that difference. It's just when you give those really obvious examples, it's like, oh yeah, that's what it's like. All right. So we're going to move into a meditation soon, but I just want to make sure I've covered everything. So what boundaries are? So they are a rule that you create to help you regulate your behavior. So you make a choice about what you're willing to live with or not willing to live with. You can communicate or not communicate. An example of not even communicating a boundary, because you don't need to, would be, say, when things get too rowdy at a party, I quietly leave because I don't want to be in the place of, I don't know, craziness. My friends get too weird or whatever. You're not telling your friends to not get crazy and drunk and weird. You're just making that decision within yourself. Or it might be communicated. Hey friends, I'm just going to let you know when things get too silly, and I really hate it when you're all drunk and start like trashing the house, I'm just going to quietly leave. Either way. And when they're set well, when they're communicated well, when they are in alignment with your values, then they are protecting your capacity so that you don't end up resenting the people you love. They are telling people what you are and are not willing to put up with and to live with. And therefore, they're actually telling people how to be in your life and have a healthy relationship with you. If you want to visualize something, I kind of say like a boundary is not a wall, right? So it's not that solid ColourBond fence. It's actually more like a doorway. Imagine you're going to a pub or a bar or like the RSL where there is a sign on the door and it says like conditions of entry or rules of entry. So no, what is it? No singlets, thongs, or like neck tattoos or something. That's your boundary, is that door to your life. It's I don't like X, Y, Z neck tattoos. I don't know. And people can come into your life then. They just go, yeah, I can do all those things. You know, they sound good to me. Boundaries are not being difficult. Boundaries don't attempt to change another person's behavior. And boundaries aren't used to teach another person a lesson. So, you know, somebody keeps kind of overstepping or whatever, that you don't set a boundary like, I'm not going to invite that person anymore. That'll teach them. So that's what a boundary is not. What happens when they're crossed? So anger, resentment, depletion, and then blame. So we end up blaming people for our unhappiness. And then in a way that's just going to fuel the shame, because deep down we know it's actually just that we keep choosing to allow the behavior, allow the person, or just simply to not woman up and communicate it. And I've been there many, many times where I go, it's on me, really. I haven't communicated it. What makes them tricky? Waiting until they've already been crossed to finally speak up. So I'm always encouraging the mums I work with to plan ahead. So the big transitions, the big things that are happening in your life, you know that's going to make everything that bit trickier. You're going to be more emotional. Maybe it is a literal hormonal change that you're going through, so you know you're more sensitive. Plan for that and set those boundaries. You're about to go on on leave from work, so you can start to predict, like, what are some things that kind of could happen in that time that could really pee me off, like family and friends kind of assuming you're free all the time to help them out, or rocking up unannounced. Like, if you can kind of go, that's going to annoy me on my long service leave, set the boundaries in advance. Trying to hold boundaries when you're already depleted and stressed, that makes it tricky, obviously, or feeling unsure in your own values. So if you haven't identified your core values, it's going to make it harder to stick to them. We talked about after you've set your boundary. Does anybody else? I would love to hear one more example. Oh, hey. We've got a littly. I would love to hear one more example from someone of a boundary they set or tried to set, and how it went, even if it went terribly, especially if it went terribly.
Jazz, can you see the chat?
Ooh, what makes them tricky? Having them thrown back in your face and it's my problem that I've set a boundary. Yeah. And this comes back to what I was talking about before, Harriet Lerner's change back term. And it goes deeper than really like that I would be qualified to talk about, but I highly suggest having a look into that, because it's like that's the next step of the kind of, it's almost like a behavioral dance that we need to practice doing, where we're like, right, this is going to be a big one, and here's how I'm going to be ready for it, ready for that, that change back. Another boundary as what I will do if something crosses my line, and then following through with an action. Love it. Yes. What I will do if someone crosses that line. Excellent. And then, following through. Parenting. Yes. Okay, I think. Oh, Laura, I've spent the last year getting clear on my values, and my word for this year is alignment. So this is coming at the perfect time. Amazing. Excellent. Christina, not a visual, but holding boundaries feels like keeping myself accountable. Yes, that's exactly it. If we focus on ourselves, our behavior, we can, it's easier to set them. It's easier to trust them. It's easier to go, no, this is, I'm happy with what I'm doing here. If we set them and it's about the other person, like, I don't want you to yell in the house anymore. We can't control it. It doesn't feel right. We feel like we're constantly coming up against this, a block. So it's just our behavior, keeping ourselves accountable. Okay, I think I went back to the start. Awesome. Okay. I just in case anyone was struggling to kind of think of them, I came up with a couple of examples. So this one's a bit of an obscure example. Called her out on it and said, I won't apologize. Feels so good. Oh, see? That's how you know that it was in alignment with your values, because it feels so good. Because I think if it felt shit and you were missing her, then it would, you still might set a really healthy boundary and you still might miss a person, but it's a big like green flag that it feels good. Amazing.
It's a 27-year friendship.
Wow.
Whoa.
But I was just like, fuck you. Ooh, excuse me. Sorry if that little kid is still there.
What about that?
I was just like, nah, fuck this. I'm done. I will not apologise for prioritising myself.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Yeah, wow. And so was it 27 years where you felt like your needs were always coming last and your boundaries were always being crossed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, half of it is I should have pulled the pin a long time ago, but she doesn't have many friends, and obviously, and some pretty significant mental challenges as well. So I've always been trying to help her through the borderline personality disorder and depression, all those sorts of things. But yeah, it just got to the point where it was just like, I'm sick of being a better friend to you than you are to me. So yeah.
Yeah. The build-up of resentment over time, and then also that overlap between boundary setting and our feeling of responsibility for somebody else. That's a huge one, because really we have responsibility for our children, right? So if our children go through insanely hard times, we're going to drop everything and be there for them. But if we've spent 27 years feeling the responsibility for another adult, we're going to be depleted by the time we're really needed for our kids, potentially. Like, that's just one possibility, one scenario. And it's never a simple answer, as you know from 27 years, that it's not a kind of Zoomer generation, like, just only invite in what brings you joy. Like, it's trickier than that. It's harder than that. But it's a practice, and it's really getting deep down into like what you value and making the decision that's right for you. And yeah, the big sign that it was the right decision is feeling good about it afterwards. Yeah.
100%. Because there's always that sense of guilt that goes along with, she doesn't have many friends, and that goes for all sorts of boundaries, outside of this one that I'm talking about. You got the guilt but it's a very freeing feeling.
Yeah, that's amazing. What's the time, Sally? How much time have we got? Oh, okay.
So we've got about 5-10 minutes left. Can we squeeze in a meditation, or?
We sure can. Okay, so what I'm going to do is copy and paste into the chat. Or am I? I don't know. I can't find it. Okay. Oh, honestly. Okay, if you have a favorite, there it is. If you have a favorite meditation background track on your Spotify, I want you to bring that up right now, because when we have music playing in these Zoom, Google Meet things, often you won't be able to hear the music coming out of my speaker. You'll only hear my voice. But if you play it on your end, you should be able to hear my voice and the music. And if you mute yourself, it won't all be overlapping. But there is a track I've just posted in the chat, which is my favorite background track. And we're going to do a little boundaries visualization meditation. So I'll just give you a minute to find that. Set up my...
And if you do need to... About how long is this meditation, Jazz?
It should only be 5 minutes.
Perfect. That's great. So we'll do a 5-minute meditation and then a 5-minute Q&A for Jazz at the end. So if you can give yourself till 20 past, please stick around.
Awesome. All right. I wonder if I can... Oh, Sally, you might be able to mute everyone as well, just to be sure. I don't know if you can do a group one.
It looks like everyone's...
So, just while everybody is getting sorted, take a moment to arrive in the space that you're in. And let it be okay that there are noises in the background in your house, noises of little kids and pets and dinner, bath, bed routine. It's all okay. Let your eyes close or soften your gaze. Feel your weight in the seat that you're in. Feel your breath moving in and out of your nose or mouth. And just slowing your breath to a comfortable pace. Breathing in, breathing out. You are grounded, you are safe, and you are held in your energy by me and this group of women on this chat. Today we've been exploring boundaries, not as walls that keep others out, but as containers that keep you safe. As acts of love toward yourself, as declarations of your worth. Imagine yourself in your mind's eye, standing in an open space. Around you, at a comfortable distance, is a gentle boundary. You might see it as a light, as a soft, glowing circle around you, or you might feel it as energy, as warmth, as a protective field. You might sense it as a line you've drawn in the sand, or as the doorway that I mentioned earlier. This boundary is yours. You created it. You hold it. You get to decide where it sits. And inside this boundary is you. Your energy, your time, your body, your work, your peace. Everything within this circle is sacred. It belongs to you. Breathe into that. Feel what it's like to know this is mine to protect. Now, imagine someone approaching your boundary. They want something from you. Perhaps more time, more energy, a discount, an exception, a yes. Feel yourself standing steady. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Feel the divine feminine at your back holding you. And a circle of women around you, witnessing you. And now, hear yourself say the words that you need to say to hold your boundary. No, that doesn't work for me. This is the choice I made for our family. I'm not available outside these hours. I need to honor my own capacity. My fee is fixed. Notice how it feels in your body to say those words. Does your throat tighten? Does your chest open? Do you feel guilty? Do you feel powerful? Just notice, no judgment. Now take a breath and feel this. Your boundary is not mean. It is not selfish. It is an act of love. When you hold your boundary, you are saying, I am worth protecting. My energy matters. I know what I am willing to live with. Your boundary keeps you whole. It keeps your work sustainable. It keeps you from resentment, from burnout, and from depletion. Boundaries are how you stay in your worth. Feel the strength of that rippling through you now. Visualizing yourself standing in that open space with your feet solid on the ground. Feel the safety of knowing exactly where your line is and stating it clearly in advance without apology. You are allowed to have boundaries. You are allowed to enforce them, and you are allowed to change them when they no longer serve you. Your boundaries are yours to hold. Breathe that energy in. Let it settle into your bones. In a moment together, we are going to take a deep breath, the biggest breath you've taken all day. And then we are breathing out with strength. Not a gentle sigh today, a confident, guttural release. Let's do that together. In and out. In and out. Let's do one more. In and out. Breathing in your normal rhythm now. Just let that tingle of that strength pass over your body. And when you are ready, you may start bringing yourself back to the space, bringing your awareness back to the room. And with a big smile on your face, open your eyes when you're ready. Thank you, everybody.
Jasmine, that was really powerful. I'm so glad that each and every one of you were here tonight to listen to Jazz, and I'm really thankful, Jazz, that you've been able to guide us and lead us with something that so many of us struggle with. And, you know, I think it's important to note that, Jazz, you're the one leading tonight, and, you know, I was about to say your leader. That sounds weird. No.
You are my leader, Sally.
You're the one holding our session tonight. And I know a lot of you look to me and think I have a lot of confidence, and I do, but we still struggle with boundaries as well. So I'm really glad that we're all here tonight. And I would love you to come off your mute or to pop in the chat. What has been your biggest takeaway from your session tonight with Jazz? Let us know.
Peace. I also just posted in the chat the Harriet Lerner thanks, Casey. And I'm popping in the book that changed the way I saw boundaries and really helped me start setting them and enforcing them properly. Oh, I like that idea, Christina. Actually using that meditation right before going into a tricky situation. Plan.
This session is recorded, so you can have access to this. And I think Jazz might even have one or... Do you have some meditations like this recorded solo? Would you guys like Jazz to record just that meditation as... Yeah, can we make that happen, Jazz?
We can make that happen.
Wonderful. Great.
Thanks, Stacey. Yes, a reminder that boundaries are not permanent, that we get to change them. Awesome. And same with Kelly. And other people don't have to like them. Yes, Casey. Yes. It's like put our gentle parent hat on for the people in our lives. Yes, I set a boundary. Yes, you are upset. Yes, I'm holding that boundary.
And then we have Laura up the top who said, boundaries are there to protect my own peace. Wonderful.
Oh, nice.
Does anyone have any questions for Jazz? Now is the time to ask her. Or me. I can answer questions too. But tonight is about Jazz. It's Jazz's floor tonight. Wonderful. All right. Well, I will. Most of you do know Jazz. I've just realized that 3 of you in this group actually, or 2 of you in this group trained with Jazz on a Tuesday. So if you don't know where to find out, I'm going to pop Jazz's Instagram handle and her details into the 12-week reset chat. I know that Jazz is more than happy to answer questions if you want to flick her a message or just connect with her or even just, tell her something that's resonated with you tonight. Jazz has kindly agreed to do a little audio or maybe even a visual meditation, and I will get that to you when that's ready. And Jazz is coming on retreat with us in a few weeks. So Christina, Kelly, I'm sure Jazz wouldn't mind you picking her brain, or maybe we should have a little campfire chat around boundaries on our retreat too as well. So I'm really thinking of some wonderful ideas. I was just thinking on retreat, I'm going to make you all a terrible coffee, and that's going to be your... That's going to be your, like, holding that boundary.
Yeah, that'll be hard.
That's I'm so excited.
That's a person I don't want to offend as well. Oh my God. And my leader.
It's a double whammy. And my leader, right? Yeah.
Awesome. Don't drink coffee, but I'd send
the wrong vodka drink back.
Yeah. You'd send the coffee back. You'd be like, thanks a lot, Sally. I don't drink this.
I'm thinking now I'm going more. I feel like I'm going to like burn down one of the tents and make some of you squeeze into a room. And then I'm going to force you to be like, but Sally, I didn't pay you to have 8 people in a room. Be like, I don't care. That's what it is now. Oh, I'm going to calm down a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, you could do a full-on story though. Like you could test people at the door and go, oh hey, I know you paid for a private room, but I've just popped you in the store, so I hope that's okay. Wait for it.
But in all seriousness, I do see all of you each week. Laura, we chat online, and if this is something that you feel would benefit you from working on, I can absolutely weave this into our coaching. It could be something as simple as on our next PT session, I asked you an outrageous question. Hey, can I borrow $1,000? That's a bit easier to say no to, right? Rather than, hey, can I just quickly take a photo on your phone? Because you might be like, oh, I don't want to give Sally my phone, but I don't know if I should. If that's something that you feel would benefit you, let me know. Jazz, thank you for your time. Your work is powerful. I am so grateful that we are connected, and thank you for giving your wisdom and your time to this beautiful group tonight. Let's give Jazz a little clap.
Thank
Yay.
you. Thank you for having me, everybody. It's a topic I love chatting about.
Oh, I think we might have you back, Jazz, for a bit more. Team, that is us done for tonight. Have a beautiful sleep and go and get a coffee this week, and maybe let them know if it's not what you ordered. It's safe to do that. Farewell.